I'm James, and I love the flicks. Game of Thrones is pretty much my favorite franchise. And since House of the Dragon Season 2 is right around the corner, I'm going to take a look at those most recent double trailers and share 7 reasons to get hyped. First, the idea to release these two trailers simultaneously was some big brain thinking. It's a really cool way of hyping up the beef between these two factions, and it also really gets across the symmetry between the two storylines. The trailers both start with Rhaenyra and Alicent respectively, as they each stare into the fire and lament the death of Viserys. I think they'll be mourning Viserys just as much as they'll be mourning the loss of innocence that his death represents for the two of them.
My father chose me, his firstborn child, to succeed him.
Only weeks ago, my lord husband was alive.
Now, they've both been groomed in multiple ways, one of which is to hold the most power possible for a woman in Westeros. For Alicent, it's the institution she upholds. For Rhaenyra, oh yeah, it's them dragons, y'all. Finally, this shot is a callback to one of the best moments from season 1, and it's a great visual representation of how far their friendship has fallen. And it tells me that the breakdown of their friendship is at the heart of this story. I'm hyped to see how they wield their fully realized powers against one another. Now look, it goes without saying the true stars we're all coming here to see, but what type of hot D hype video would this be if I ain't talk about these dragons, bruh? First shot that stands out to me is Bayla whipping that bitch. Yeah. I really hope that in season 2 we get a chance to know her in a way that we didn't get to know Lena, because the time jump did her dirty dirty.
I mean to fight this war.
I know the dragons are the main draw, but I also have to show some love to the dragon riders as well, particularly these dragon seeds, because there's so much story sitting at this table. And there's one or two very notable exclusions from this shot. Hashtag free nettles.
You will not even remember what began the war in the first place.
This time around, the main sources of magic spectacle come from dragons and dragon warfare. The last seconds of season 1 did give us a spicy little taste of what to expect, but that other shoe is going to drop this season. And since the pace that they're adapting the story at is going to have to slow down dramatically, I'm hoping this means we'll get a lot more dragon scenes and they'll all build upon each other. Kind of like how, and I emphasize, most of the battle scenes in Game of Thrones operate with a sense of one-upsmanship, and each one is just a bit more extreme than the last.
The path to victory now is one of violence.
Good. To war, then.
As the villains of their respective shows, there is no way I cannot make the comparison between the Hightowers and the Lannisters. At first, Otto gives off Tywin vibes, but Tywin Lannister, bro, is not. The way I think he's about to lose control over his family, Aegon specifically, is going to be a sight to behold, because everybody in this trailer just seems kind of done with him. Like, TBH, it's kind of crazy that this is your man's, because dude's reputation precedes him. And Otto knows what type of time he's on. But for all the endless chatter about what's inevitable, he put a grimy dude like this on the throne and expected to keep control over him. You stupid.
You have no idea the sacrifices that were made to put you on that throne.
Now, this moment right here gets me hype because it seems heavily inspired by some of those moments between Joffrey and Cersei. I'm curious to see how much like Joffrey they'll end up making him, but I'd honestly prefer it if they did go the route of making his character to be a bit more sympathetic, because so far it seems like they've just been adapting all of the most salacious details about his story. And as he starts to develop, I'll be on the lookout to see if he's going to have a moment like this with Alicent.
What you just did is punishable by death. You'll never do it again. Never.
They wish now not for the good of the realm, but for the satisfaction of vengeance.
Cap.
Now, the only words I have for this are questions. Mainly, over the course of his 20 plus years, doing everything in his power to make sure this conflict was inevitable, did he really think that his ops wouldn't want get back? Bruh. In summary, I'm looking forward to seeing Aegon develop free will and the decisions he'll make with it. I'm fairly certain that they won't be good decisions, but I am also equally certain that it'll make great TV.
The realm will soon tear itself apart if men do not remember the oath sworn to King Viserys.
Okay, it's looking like that boy Jace is in his Jon Snow bag this season, and I can't wait. Maybe while he's so far up north, he'll get some new information about Aegon's prophecy or the fight against the others. Considering how diligent he is in his role as Rhaenyra's heir, I think that he would take his role as potential savior even more seriously. He may very well end up dedicating his life to the same fight that Jon and Dany did in the main story. Also, I'm interested to see his reaction to Luke's death, mainly because it was low-key his idea.
And to his rightful heir.
This is Gwaine. You didn't really get to see his face in the first season, so you might know him better as Otto's son, who got his shit pushed in by Daemon in the first episode. I'll use his picture to represent the broader Hightower family as a whole, because I'm really excited to see how the rest of them are characterized. Now, you have to keep a few things in mind. First, Alicent and Otto and them are not the main branch of the Hightower family. Also, Viserys and Alicent have a fourth kid who hasn't even been mentioned. His name is Daeron, and he's currently in Old Town. In the source material, he's said to be a bit more well-adjusted than his Hightower siblings, so that leads me to believe that they'll adapt the main Hightower family to be a bit more normal than the Hightower family that was created to essentially be living chess pieces. The show is about a Targaryen civil war, and House Hightower does seem to be on the same page pretty much. But I do look forward to seeing the dynamics of the different families of House Hightower. This one goes into the expanded universe as a whole. One of the things I love about A Song of Ice and Fire is how there's a seemingly endless amount of lore, even for the more minor houses, and I'm really excited to see that expanded to screen. As Game of Thrones went on, the smaller houses really just started to blend in with the background actors. I was ecstatic when I saw them lay the seeds for the Blackwoods and the Brackens in season 1, because they're basically the Westerosi Hatfields and McCoys. I think they're perfect examples of how the beef in this culture goes way deeper than just Targaryen versus Targaryen, and there's something at the heart of this society that's about to reach a boiling point. I personally really appreciate them going out of their way to make the non-Targaryen characters more than just regular haired side characters.
Bend the knee to the king, or your house burns.
My uncle is a challenge I welcome, if he dares face me.
Lastly, it's time for what I'm actually most hyped to see, and that's the build-up between capital and lowercase d. And if you haven't read Fire and Blood, or you just don't know what happens, I'm not here to spoil it for you, but let's just say this kid is tripping. Alright, quick disclaimer. Aemond was personally the character I was most excited to see brought to life, and it was really impressive to see how quickly they fleshed out his character. That being said, is he really going to act like he didn't steal Daemon's whole flow?
All these niggas stealing my style. Can I get my flow back?
Since imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I think it's pretty funny how Daemon seems to low-key be his biggest male role model. Now, I understand at some point the student wants to become the master, but dude is barking up the completely wrong heart tree, because Daemon is just built different. And by different, I mean built for this like his whole life has been leading up to this conflict, and he won't be outdone. This man's default setting is 10. Overall, I want to keep this section pretty vague while still getting across how lit I am. But to keep it vague, this kingdom ain't big enough for the both of them. If you made it to the end, much love to you. Now do me 2 last favors. 1, violate that like button, and 2, have a great day.